As Air Force One descends into Kuala Lumpur, anticipation and tension hang in the air. It's the first stop in a 5-day journey that could reshape the balance of trade and diplomacy across Asia. For the first time since returning to the White House in January, US President Donald Trump is embarking on a major tour, one that will take him through Malaysia, Japan, and South Korea, 3 countries at the heart of global economic crosscurrents. But this isn't just another diplomatic visit. The trip comes amid rising global unease, fresh tariff threats on China, protests in Seoul, and a region still adjusting to the shockwaves of Trump's aggressive economic policies. Trump's Asia visit begins in Malaysia, where leaders have gathered for this year's Association of Southeast Asian Nations Summit. It's a venue thick with symbolism, a stage for high-stakes trade diplomacy and quiet power plays. Top economic officials from the US and China have already begun preliminary talks on the sidelines in an effort to cool the escalating tariff war. The atmosphere is tense. Washington has threatened to impose new 100% tariffs on Chinese goods, while Beijing has responded by expanding export controls on rare earth magnets and minerals, essential materials for global tech production. This meeting in Kuala Lumpur is not the main event, but rather the prelude. The ultimate showdown is expected to happen later this week in Busan, South Korea, where Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping are scheduled to meet at the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit. That meeting will mark the first direct conversation between Trump and Xi since Trump's return to office. It could determine the future of trade relations between the world's 2 largest economies. Trump has threatened to raise total tariffs on Chinese imports to 155% starting November 1st if a deal isn't reached, a move that analysts warn could shatter the fragile truce that paused the previous tit-for-tat trade escalations. Beyond trade, the agenda is sprawling. Taiwan is expected to feature prominently given its growing tensions with Beijing. Trump has also said he plans to raise the case of Jimmy Lai, the imprisoned founder of Hong Kong's pro-democracy newspaper Apple Daily, who has been jailed under China's sweeping national security laws. When asked by reporters before leaving Washington, Trump said simply, "It's on my list." I'm going to ask, we'll see what happens. Not everyone in the region is happy about Trump's return to the global stage. Ahead of his arrival, thousands of protesters filled the streets of Seoul, denouncing his tariff policies and what they see as heavy-handed US pressure on South Korea to increase investment in America. The demonstrations underscore a broader sentiment across Asia, a mix of apprehension and resistance to Trump's America First approach. His economic policies, including sweeping import tariffs and export restrictions, have disrupted traditional trade relationships and reshaped global supply chains. For many ASEAN countries, Trump's visit feels paradoxical. The same leader who unsettled the global economy is now calling for renewed partnership and cooperation. Trump's attendance at this year's ASEAN Summit marks only the second time he has joined the gathering. In the past, he skipped multiple sessions in 2018, 2019, and 2020, often citing his skepticism of large multilateral forums. But this year, the summit carries new urgency. The region has been grappling with rising security and economic instability, including a deadly border conflict between Thailand and Cambodia that erupted in July. Malaysia, under Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, has played a crucial mediating role. Under Anwar's guidance, Thai and Cambodian negotiators reached a fragile ceasefire. Now, Trump and Anwar are expected to oversee the signing of a formal agreement to solidify that truce. While not a full peace deal, the agreement could end months of violence and mark a diplomatic win for Malaysia, and potentially for Trump, who had earlier threatened to suspend US trade relations with both nations if they didn't end hostilities. As Trump told reporters aboard Air Force One, "I told the leader of Malaysia, who is a very good man, I think I owe you a trip. Trump's Asia trip is not only about diplomacy, it's also about economics. During his visit, he is expected to hold meetings with multiple world leaders, including Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, who is also attending the ASEAN Summit. The two leaders are likely to discuss U.S. tariffs of up to 40% on Brazilian imports, imposed in response to Brazil's prosecution of former President Jair Bolsonaro, a Trump ally. Lula has publicly criticized these sanctions, calling them unfair and politically motivated. He has also condemned recent U.S. military operations off South America's coast, which Washington claims are part of its campaign against drug trafficking. Lula has said he plans to raise both issues directly with Trump in Kuala Lumpur. The White House has not yet confirmed whether the meeting will take place, but if it does, it could become one of the most closely watched bilateral encounters of the summit. For Trump, this trip represents both an opportunity and a test. It's his longest foreign visit since returning to office, and it comes at a time when his policies are under scrutiny both abroad and at home. His hardline approach to trade, especially against China, has reshaped the global economy but also drawn criticism from allies. Meanwhile, his threats of new tariffs and technology controls have unsettled industries across Asia, from semiconductors to agriculture. At the same time, his administration faces diplomatic challenges, expanding sanctions on Russia over the war in Ukraine, a slowing U.S. economy, and questions over Washington's long-term commitment to global leadership. All eyes now turn to Busan, South Korea, where Trump and Xi will meet on Thursday. Diplomats describe it as a potential make-or-break moment for the global trade order. If both sides can find common ground, perhaps through a deal on tariffs, rare earth exports, or U.S. agricultural sales, it could ease tensions that have strained relations for years. But if the talks fail, the world could be headed back toward a full-scale trade war, with ripple effects on markets and industries worldwide. As Trump himself put it before boarding Air Force One, we have a lot to talk about with President Xi, and he has a lot to talk about with us. As the U.S. President's convoy prepares to roll through Kuala Lumpur, the world watches closely. From Malaysia's diplomatic breakthroughs to South Korea's protests and the looming confrontation with China, Trump's Asia trip is a high-wire act of politics, power, and personality. It's a journey that could redefine his legacy and determine whether the world's two largest economies move toward reconciliation or deeper division. For now, one thing is certain. From Kuala Lumpur to Busan, the next 5 days will be watched not just in Asia, but around the globe.